up to you as to starting.
2 minutes, you're ready to proceed? Okay. I think that's great. Let's go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for being here. This is an exciting meeting for us because we actually get to start digging in and doing some real policy work. The last 2 meetings have been gathering data, understanding things, and now we actually get to tell Eric what we think about the community. So that's exciting. I want to say before we start off, thank you for your flexibility on meeting times. I know we had to reshuffle some of the meetings. I promise you that that was something that we thought about doing before we did it, but it gave us time to get more survey data, and I think that's really important, as you'll see later on. So I know I committed to you that we would try to adhere to the schedule, but it was worth our while, and we won't do it again. Isn't that right, Eric and consulting group? We got it all set from here on out. So
that's correct.
There'll be no problems from here on out. Things going to go smoothly. If you can't make the meeting, they're all recorded, so you know the meetings build on one another. So I guess I should be telling it to the people who aren't here as opposed to people that are here, but they're all available on the website, and go ahead and watch them, or if you just want to freshen up. So the first formal thing to kick us off is to look at the minutes from the previous meeting. I have reviewed them. They looked appropriate to me. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as submitted, and we'll hand it over to Eric.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to very quickly go over what we're hoping to accomplish today, and also just to touch on a couple other points. First of all, I just want to thank everybody for your flexibility on the schedule. We try very hard not to make changes to that, and we will try very hard to adhere to the schedule going forward. And we had a few kinks to work out at the beginning, and but we also wanted to make sure that we had enough community engagement coming in for this to be a productive and fruitful meeting. So thanks for that. Just to remind you, obviously the March 16th meeting was canceled, and the May 4th meeting is canceled. And we have added April 13th and June 8th, and you should already have that on your schedules. We will be staying on schedule otherwise and hitting the endpoint when we're supposed to hit the endpoint in November. So that should work fine. And as Daniel said, if you cannot attend a meeting, please take the time to watch the video. The thing about visioning is that I think I've said this before, it's like a math class. You miss one math class and then all of a sudden you're behind. So I encourage you to watch those videos if you haven't, if you've missed any meetings so far. The other thing I want to point out from a logistical standpoint is that we send out materials a week in advance. And if you have not received, if you think you have not received the materials, please let us know. They normally will come out from an email from Rachel, and she will provide you with a link to those materials. So oftentimes, in fact, probably almost every time, we're going to be asking you to review some materials before the meeting, as we did with this one. And it's important that you be able to get those materials in advance. The last batch of materials that we sent you also has updated membership lists. There's two. There is just the general list that we put out publicly, and then we also have a contact list which is intended only for the task force members so that you folks can contact each other in the interim between meetings. So today's agenda, what we're hoping to do is two things. One is we want to download with you what we learned from the community since the last meeting. And there's been survey out, and we have a speakers bureau that's been active and collecting information. So we want to download all of that information, which is going to be pertinent to the next piece, which is we are now getting into the meat of it. where we're going to be drafting the vision statement. And so today you'll have your first shot at trying to craft the core vision statement, the very top of that, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the vision statements for each of the focus areas going forward. So, but with that, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, and we have a couple of new members who haven't been here. And so we thought we would give them the pleasure of going through the introductions that the rest of you have. And so what I'm going to ask for the two members, and that Kathy and Kara, is that we would like you to introduce yourself and what position you're representing. How long have you lived in Medford? What or worked in Medford? And one thing that you like about Medford, and then finish this sentence, please. This process will be successful if. So if you can run through those points, that would be great. And Kathy, do you want to start?
Sure, I'm happy to do that. I'm Kathy Kemper-Pell. I'm president of Rogue Community College. Happy to be here. And I have been in the Rogue Valley for 5 years, almost 6. So time's flying. And I think that this process will be successful if we take the time to really process all of the input we've received and think about it very give it its due consideration.
Great. Thank you. Kara.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kara Carter, and I'm the Director of Housing Programs for the Housing Authority of Jackson County. And I'm a lifer. I was born in Medford, and I've been here my whole life, bounced back and forth between Central Point and Medford. One thing I like about Medford is I think it has a great community feel to it, and that's why I decided to stay here and raise my family here. And I think this process will be successful if you get community buy-in, and if it's shared with the larger community and everybody's on board.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Chair, I'm assuming I shall just continue on since I've got
You
the
may
next
proceed. I'll stop you if you need to stop.
Okay, thank you. All right, so talking just a little bit more about the process for those of you who have that were in the first few meetings, and also if you've watched the videos from the first few meetings, we talked about the visioning process and how that was going to be structured, and that we're moving from a big picture to a more detailed picture. And there are two main phases that we're proceeding through. And the first phase is developing a vision statement. And the vision statement is a broad brush picture of what Medford would look and feel like by the year 2040. We are still in that phase as we had planned. And the second phase will be developing an action plan. So we were going to take that vision statement and we are going to start going through the strategies that need to be employed in order to get there, and the actions, or AKA projects, programs, on the ground activities that need to happen to support those strategies that supports that vision. So you have that integrity of integrity of concepts, if you will, all the way through. And we'll talk a little bit more about that again. But now we're doing the vision statement phase, as I said, and we've already made great strides in this, even though you haven't already put together pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. because we were setting things up for you to be able to have a productive discussion. So if you recall, we had the community profile that was done early on to sort of set a baseline for where is Medford now and what are the trends that Medford is facing. We developed a public involvement plan. And we also, in that plan, use that structure to engage as much as humanly possible the broader community, including areas of the community that may not typically be engaged. And we've made efforts to reach out to people of color and other diverse groups to bring them into this conversation. And Seth will be talking a little bit more about that. And we have done a lot of community engagement. We've gone through a couple of surveys. We did a community satisfaction survey. We did a vision input survey. We've done speaker bureau events. So you're going to have a lot of fodder to be able to use for developing the vision statement. The other thing that we've accomplished to date is to establish the 5 different focus areas, or AKA topic areas, that the vision is going to address. And we will be talking a little bit more about those going forward. But at the last meeting, you were successful in sort of helping to solidify those focus areas. So with that, I don't want to delay things, but the only other thing I want to point out, and I'll point out probably more than once or twice, is that the vision statement is something that is going to be derived out of the community input that you've received. And so as you're hearing Seth's presentation on the community input, part of what we're hoping you will think about is how does that relate to the vision for Medford for the next 20 years. So, and we will come back to that. So with that, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, I got to jump in and say something as we hand it over to Seth. So, you know, we sent Seth and the team out to go grab a lot of data for us. They've done a fantastic job under less than ideal circumstances with COVID. All that data is in your packet. It's fun to read through. I think it's important to set expectations appropriately, to say this is not a, you know, statistical representation of the community. This is informal, it's not scientific. We have specifically targeted groups that are underrepresented. The purpose of all of this is to get all the data in front of us as a group, and then we have to fashion some sort of consensus view out of it. So up to this point, the staff's worked really hard to get us as much data as possible. Seth's going to explain what they found, and then our job is to say, all right, let's push this into something that represents the whole community. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Seth and take it away.
Thanks, Daniel. And thanks for pointing that out, that our goal was to try to hear from as many people as we can and targeting folks we know we need to hear from. If we were able to do a statistically valid scientific survey, it would be fun to know what's in everybody's minds, but that's not what we have here. So just keeping in mind as I am presenting the results that this is another piece of input, just like the input of the data that we're working with from the community profile that we had earlier today. So I just encourage you to think about that and have that mindset as we're going through the results. So with that, I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen. Okay, is that visible to most of us? Okay, Eric and Daniel, please help me if I need to stop because I can't see everybody right now. So, and thanks again, everyone, for adjusting the schedule so that we could extend the time period for the survey a little bit more. That was really important, especially to get some of your speaker bureau meetings to happen within the time frame of the survey. the number of responses we got was lower compared to the first survey that we did. So we got 578 responses, which I think is great. We did have over 1,000 last time. Some of the reasons we suspect we got lower results is we did get calls from people who were confused, that thinking they had already done the survey because we had one that was not very long ago, just back in January. And they were topics that were related. And so I think one of the ways we got in front of a lot of people last time was using social media. And I think it could be that social media I know social media was not as high of a source for the survey this time around. But with that said, we did have people come in for different sources, thanks to the outreach of KJ and a lot of you who are doing Speakers Bureau events. And we got input that I think is really valuable. So I'm excited to share those themes with you. And again, the objectives of this survey was to collect input for the actual vision statement that that you're going to be developing with Eric. And so it's trying to understand what people value about Medford now, what they want to carry into the future, what challenges they think we need to overcome, and compiling that in a way into themes for you to consider. So again, the ways that we shared the survey was similar to the last one. We posted it to the project website and the City of Medford's website. We did get a lot of engagement from our new email list that we're starting to grow as we do each survey. So people who want to stay engaged are staying engaged. So was good to see. We use social media advertisements again. And once again, we did have an incentive for the survey by offering a chance to win an Amazon gift card to take the survey. We use news releases. And this time we got a lot more traction from our community partners when we asked them to share with their email lists. And you all presented at some community groups and organizations. So thank you for that through the Speakers Bureau. And we shared the survey with City of Medford staff. One new piece of data we collected that was interesting to see was we asked for a zip code. And so one of our goals is to not only engage people who live in Medford, but the community who surround Medford and still participate in our community here as people who live, work, and recreate in Medford. And most of our responses came from East Medford. And then the second highest was West Medford. But then we also saw responses from the surrounding cities of Central Point, Eagle Point, Ashland, and Jacksonville, and Talent. Years active in Medford. Again, this really speaks to the number of people who choose to stay here, because most of the people we heard from have lived here for more than 20 years. But that does also speak to the demographics that we heard from. I'll talk about age in a minute, but again, we heard from a lot of people who are kind of in the middle age range, which is pretty typical for these kinds of projects. We got a good mix of people who live and work in Medford and visit Medford for other reasons. We did get some pretty obvious comments from people who are going to school right now, so that was good to see. And that's an area I think we continue to try to grow in. Again, for some reason, we got a lot more female responses than male, but it was good that we got some participation from people who are off the binary scale too. We hit people in that mid to high age range again. So I think we'll continue to push for engagement from folks who are younger and also our senior citizens to even that out. Race and ethnicity, we didn't get quite as representative a sample compared to last time, I think just because of the sample size that we're working with now. So it was predominantly white, but we did have other representation in here too. We can talk about the comments that those people shared. Per your suggestion, we added LGBTQ folks to our target audiences. And so we asked about this time, and we did get folks who identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer. We added a self-describe option, and so we got one person who identified as pansexual. I think something to be aware of is that we did get a lot of people who wondered why we were asking about this, or they did say things like they were offended that we were asking about this. And I only say that to keep in mind, that's why there are so many in the self-described area, because most of those were comments about this question. And I think that's just something for this group to be aware of. Languages spoken at home. Again, it's, almost 100% English. We did get some folks who say they speak Spanish at home. And so that's an area we know we want to continue to work. Thank you, Lilia and others who made a considered effort to reach people who speak Spanish.
Seth, can you help me understand this? If English was 99%, how was Spanish 6% if it wasn't already counted in other or multiple? I'm a little confused by the math.
I'm sorry, this should just say other, not other or multiple. That was the way we did this differently. So people could select more than one language if they speak different languages at home, more than one language at home. Thank you for asking. Does that clarify?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. We asked people about their housing situation, and most people said they own their homes. And so I think we need to continue to try to reach people who rent their homes. And I was glad to see that we also got representation from people who don't have permanent housing right now. And then the income range was pretty evenly distributed. So that was good for the targets that we were trying to reach. So with that, I wanted to share the key concepts from the summary that I sent out. So I just want to start by talking about the questions that we asked people. We asked people 4 questions that really were different ways to get the angle of what we want Medford to be like in the future, more or less directly. And so we asked people what they value most about Medford and why, what characteristics they want to carry on into the future, what is missing from Medford that you or your community need, and then to describe your preferred vision for Medford in the future, thinking about it in ways like what does it look and feel like in the year 2040, and what is different, what is the same. And we got these 7 key concepts that came out of it, and I go into these a little bit more detail one by one in the next few slides. So it was very clear that people really like Medford's small town character, and they want to keep that as Medford continues into the future. They said they wanted to emphasize Medford's natural, historic, and rural beauty, and the easy access of a variety of outdoor activities while enjoying the amenities of a larger city. They wanted Medford to continue to be a place where people know their fellow community members and feel known, while avoiding the drawbacks of a larger city. And they wanted to maintain Medford's excellent healthcare facilities and shopping opportunities. We definitely got lots of comments about addressing affordability challenges. They said they shared concern that Medford is becoming less affordable for many people, and they asked for more diverse types of affordable housing for various income levels, and a robust economy that could supply stable and livable income for more people. There are several comments about trying to address the challenges of people who are unhoused, and they asked us to find new and more effective strategies to help people who don't have resources to cover their basic needs find stable housing. They wanted Medford to be a place where vulnerable people could get the help they need and simultaneously address challenges of cleanliness and a sense of safety in community spaces. There were many, many comments about Medford as a family place and a place where people want their family to grow. They expressed value maintaining Medford as a great place to raise a family and stay near extended family. They wanted more affordable and accessible family spaces and activities, as well as childcare and job opportunities that would keep their family members close to home after they finish their education. Some respondents expressed the need to invest in a local education system infrastructure and address safety concerns to keep families in Medford. People asked us to embrace and build diversity in Medford. They noted that community members are steadily increasing in diversity here, and there's a need to make community members who are not part of the dominant culture feel celebrated and welcome in the community. And they named Black, Indigenous, people of color, as well as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community members. They also said that we need to be inclusive of community members who speak English as a second language. And they showed interest in creating more resources and spaces dedicated to these community members and opportunities to share and celebrate culture. There is a range of community activities and attractions that people asked for in Medford. They asked for amenities that they experience in other cities, for entertainment that bring people together in shared activities. They suggested revitalizing and reimagining city assets like downtown and Bear Creek to foster unique crafts, restaurants, and other small businesses that people can enjoy together and serve as venues for community festivals, adding accessible and affordable community facilities like water parks and performing arts centers, and exploring venues for large-scale events and entertainment, such as a convention center and an arena. So kind of two sides to that one. People want, affordable community spaces, public spaces where they know they can take their family. And then they also ask for these kind of larger attractions that aren't in Medford or close by that could bring new performance and arts, culture events. So two parts to this one is increasing accessibility as well as transportation choices. They asked for more accessible amenities that accommodated the needs of people with varying ability levels of sight, hearing, and mobility. And that was connected to senior citizens a lot of the time, as well as people who have different ability levels at different ages. They asked for more transportation choices to move around the region. They asked for mixed use spaces that allow people to reach all of their needs without the use of a car. So things like apartments over restaurants, just these communities where things are easy to walk to. They asked for more connected and enhanced infrastructure that enables people to walk, bike, or use public transit as a reliable form of transportation while reducing dependence on fossil fuels. So those were the overarching themes. I'll talk a little bit more about, there's the more detailed themes in the report that you can read through yourself. I did want to pull out themes from Black, Indigenous, and people of color and LGBTQ communities, because those are two of our audiences that we want to make sure we hear from. So I want to explain that these folks had several comments that were in line with much of the community, but these themes were, I would say, more prevalent among them. And I just want to make sure that they're noticed in the summary. And so they wanted to foster progress to become more welcoming and inclusive for specific groups that don't represent the dominant culture, make Medford a place with cultural spaces and services that welcome and celebrate people's full selves, and increase demographic and political diversity in community leadership, including city government. So I'm sure you'll hear these in the larger themes that I just said, but I just want you to know that where they came from in this instance. And I did the same for low-income communities, and a lot of these were centered on the feel of the city and feeling safe and affordability. So wanting that small town feel, access to trade school and job training for educational opportunities linked to careers, increase access to safe and stable housing, attract and retain employees with stable jobs and livable family wages, create accessible and affordable places for people and families to gather, more accessible, affordable, and fun activities for families and young people, focus on helping vulnerable populations and provide the services and treatment that people need to become self-sufficient, increase the community's sense of safety, and provide convenient and affordable internet access. I'd like to ask if for folks who are able to do a Speakers Bureau event or have some kind of community event, do you have anything to add to these themes that I've added here that might not have made it into the summary that you'd like to share? Okay. Well, I hope that means that these were in line. I did get a summary from Lily about an event that she did, and it seemed like much of what she found was consistent with what we gathered in the survey too. So I was glad to see that. I just want to talk a little bit about the way the summary is laid out. So I just read through what is essentially the first couple pages of the summary. And after that, towards the end, there are these themes tables that have a little bit more detail. And the way this is set up is that the theme is on the left side of the table. And then there's also the topic areas that we've talked about as a group before. And we checked off which of the topic areas the theme seemed to apply to help us in later discussions talk about smaller vision statements for each of the topic areas. On the far right, I had a column for comment prevalence, just to give you an idea of how common the comment was in the survey. And again, this wasn't a scientific survey, so I just want you to understand like how often I heard it. But you know, I characterized like high as common ideas shared by many respondents, medium as ideas supported by a fair number of respondents, and low I would think about as the unique ideas of a few respondents. We also included to you a report of the direct responses from the surveys, if you'd like to read that and see what people's actual words are. And if you want to understand like how I took that and turned it into the themes, you're welcome to do so. It is many pages, so we're not expecting you to read every single comment. That's why we've made the summary for you, but you're welcome to review the data if you'd like to do that. Eric, anything you'd like to add at this point, or connecting this towards the vision level discussion we're going to be having?
Thanks, Seth. What I would add is what Seth has just presented is going to be the major part of the information that you're using in developing the vision statement. And so a lot of the things when it comes down to looking at that matrix, and Seth had the column of low, medium, high, understanding the things that were most prevalent will be important. Not that the other things are not, but it does give you a sense of predominance in terms of the direction your community is thinking right now. So, and the other thing I would echo that Seth said is that this is not scientific, and this is not a scientific process. We do the best we can to get as much community engagement as possible, and we use that information. But on the other hand, in our experience, what you do find in the results of this are pretty consistent with what is being said in the community as a whole. And so anyway, that's it. So Seth, do you have other thoughts?
I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions you have now if we have time, or if after you read the summary, you have follow-up questions, you're welcome to contact me.
Any questions for Seth? Methodology, opinions?
Lilia raised her
Yeah, go
question
ahead.
about blending with the background.
Yeah, thank you for the listening. Can you hear me? Yeah, I think I can. On question number 6 of the piece of information that you just showed, which says, where did you hear about the survey, or how did you hear from the survey? Was it question number 6? I think, Seth.
I know the question you're talking about.
Okay, one of the things that I noticed is that, and I just want to give a big shout out to Dr. Champion. I think out of all the people, I counted like 9 times or more, they hear from the Medford School District. And I'm very proud of saying that, wow, he made it go, he made it move in, and they were not forced to do it. But obviously, as we all know, education is a key factor for a community. And so I counted every time they say newsletter, the school. I work for the Medford School District. I think it was more than 9 because I wrote it down and I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. But it was the most number of places where people said that's where they got the survey. And I just want to say thank you, Dr. Champion. You did a great job once more.
Thanks, Lilia.
Thanks for calling that out, and thank you, Brett.
Anybody else? All right, well, Eric, why don't you lay out how you want the meaty part of the meeting to go, then we'll take a break, and then we'll jump into the vision statement.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so first of all, before we get into that, I would like to follow up a little bit on Seth's presentation and just ask you as members of the task force if the things that Seth found in terms of the main themes resonate with you. And just kind of leave it open to anybody who wants to chime in. Either raise your hand or Denny.
Yeah, I think it does resonate with folks, the input that I've gotten from folks. One thing I worry about a little bit, though, it's like almost when you aggregate everything, it's like this utopian society that will never exist. We want a robust economy and everything needs to be affordable, and we've got to be inclusive to everybody, and we've got to have all the amenities of a big city, but the local nature of a tiny town. And
You froze up.
when you put all that together, I worry that we come up with something that's undoable. So I worry that we come up with something that's undoable, and I'm very interested in seeing where we're going to go from here because of the complexity of the aggregate.
I think Denny hit the nail right on the head. Skipping ahead, we've had Eric prepare a draft vision statement, and it is the utopian vision statement. And then we get to rip it apart and tell him why it's unworkable. So I think you're right. We're reaching the point in the process where now we have to make some decisions. Because to just say we're going to do everything under the sun isn't a vision. That's just wanting to be a nice person, which I think we all want to be. Other comments? Danny said it way more eloquently and politely than I did last week during the team meeting. So,
other comment? I mean,
yeah, Eric,
yes.
we've got 2 hands up. We've got Michael Montero and Tom Fisher.
Oh, thank you.
Sure.
Tom.
Thanks. I was surprised. Page 14 has a response theme basically talking about making internet affordable and accessible to people. And given the pandemic we just went through and how we hear this so often in society about businesses going to the internet, working from home, or children having to go to school at home connected by the internet, that had a low comment prevalence surprises me. I'll just put that out there. I'm not saying the data is wrong, just surprised. So
I didn't think it also speaks to a challenge we're in right now of working in a pandemic and relying a lot on the internet. So we definitely heard mostly from people who already have access to the internet.
All right, Bill.
Yeah, I guess the one thing I felt was missing was really talking about larger employers, manufacturers, and manufacturing itself. Lots of comments about small business and on and on and on, but nothing that really talked about the value of having a Harry and David or a Medford Fabrication or Timber Products. The range of manufacturing jobs, whether it's in a cabinet shop, a boat builder, or whatever, even in the city of Medford, I thought was lacking in the present, in any of the responses we got in the survey. It was all about the perfect small business that pays unbelievable wages and is probably involved in high tech or the internet or something like that. And I just felt as though it was a little shallow compared to really the diverse economy that we have.
Great, good observation. Mike?
Yeah, my concerns were similar to what Denny Conrad's had, but I have a little different view on that. I think what it does is it provides us with a menu of things that we aspire to. And as we go through the process, we may well discover that the means by which we achieve some of those could be perceived unachievable objectives can in fact be achieved by doing other things, similar to what Bill just brought up. So if we make Medford a place where that economic investment can in effect raise all boats, then we think about what it is that's going to make us the place we want to be. And for example, in Brett's industry, well, education, we are lacking the kind of educated workforce that we need here to attract those kinds of employers. So if this vision statement can communicate to the region that becomes a means to a broader end, I think that that's something that comes out of this.
Great, thank you. Bill, you still have your hand up. Is that just from last time? Okay, I'll take that as that was from last time. Okay. Other comments, observations? Did anybody else feel that it didn't ring true or that there were pieces missing?
I have a question. I just want to add something. I just want to add something. Out of the group, the Latino Interagency Committee meeting, we did the survey as a group. It was 24 people. And the thing that I thought it was requested, and I sent it to Christina, is the convention center. One of the things as a Medford School Board member, twice a year we have the annual state board meetings, and they're done in Bend because there's not an avenue where you can fit so many board members. And the benefit of the convention center, obviously, that brings a lot of income for Bend, Oregon. And I'm thinking, still keeping the small piece, but also how you're going to bring revenue into Medford is by creating the convention center, because you're going to have all these people doing conventions at a state level in one location, and with that location right now it's only Bend or Portland. We don't have anything in between. And that's how the my point of view will be. You will be creating something that is going to attract investors, and at the same time we'll still need to, we'll still keep Medford as Medford, not to be a Portland area. That's my opinion, but it definitely makes a great source of income. Thank you.
Thanks, Lilia. Al?
Thank you. In terms of your question, Eric, about maybe what's missing in the feedback, one thing that I was struck by as I am partway through Bill Gates's recent book on why we should all be very, very concerned about climate adaptation, I was very surprised that that theme did not show up, to my knowledge, to any great degree in the response. I have a feeling that based on what Denny said, that we have a tendency in these vision activities to focus on, positive, nuanced improvements to our community, but maybe we forget some of the big assumptions that we're going to have to deal with. And so I think in the next 20 years, we're going to have to take as a community a lot of actions to do our part in this adaptation. And it could well lead us into some things that help us with the economy and these areas. But that was the one big thing that I noticed.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Thank you, Al. Anybody else?
This is Christina. I just wanted to take a moment and just acknowledge the fact that, community members did step up to the challenge and provide input, which I think is invaluable. I think it's critically important that while we have our opinions on whether or not things are achievable, that we handle our responses with grace, because many people haven't had the opportunity to be, participants in this kind of dialogue and level of engagement. And so I frankly didn't see anything that wasn't achievable. I think that's why we have this group of people together, because we all are able to be creative and can find, ways to make things come to fruition that maybe were unimaginable in the past. So that's it.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is Bill. I guess, to Al's comment, Bill Thorndike, that again, I thought it was interesting. One of the respondents did respond that the future also meant being ready for emergency response, and of course that was one of the things that we touched on with the new sports and aquatic center for Medford, that in the event of an emergency where we needed to relocate folks because of a natural disaster, that again, this new facility would help serve that. So I think, that was an interesting response. And then of course, a lot of positive responses about our first responders, about our police, about our fire, etc. And again, I think, going back to Daniel's earlier comments, that again, we want to paint a realistic picture of the future. And so again, I applaud making sure we get that integrated in.
Great. Thank you very much. That was great too. Are there any other comments before we move on?
Yeah, I just had one, and I think that communication is possibly emerging as a challenge. I saw some things in there that I think are available, but people don't know about them, or they don't know how to access them or afford them or whatever. So I think there may be some communication hurdles.
Okay. Would you like to elaborate on that just a little bit more, Kathy?
Well, I was noticing the training one, and the need for more training. I would love to know exactly what kind of training they're specifically asking about, but I don't think people realize that any place that has a local community college has the ability to tell that community college what they need, and that community college is supposed to respond. It's supposed to be a two-way communication where the community college is able to respond to local needs, but they have to know what local needs are.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other comments before we move on? Oh, yes. Mike?
Yeah, the one thing, just in looking back at the list, the one thing on the transportation side that I think was absent was the whole issue of resiliency. I think everybody is well familiar that University of, Oregon State is saying that the potential for a Cascadia subduction in Oregon is very real. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And so when we think about our transportation system, the most vulnerable element of it is the viaduct. And it struck me as odd that that was not mentioned. So that's part of what Kathy mentioned about communication. There are a lot of things that the public takes for granted. And part of the value that this has is providing that increased education.
Great, thanks. Lilia?
Talking about the communication, I just want to follow up on that too, because one of the things that people mentioned at the survey was that the means of communicate to the people about the danger, they were talking about the Almeida fire, obviously, where there was lack of communication with the community. In this case, we were doing the survey with, multiple persons, either from Spanish speakers and English speakers, but the issue was that there was not a way for the people to know the imminent danger they were in. And so that was a tremendous lack of communication when it comes to that. So it's got to be, we have to have and develop a better service of communicating when there is either there's a, the earthquake, the major earthquake, or the fires. That's one thing. Another thing, when Kathy Kemper was talking about communication, is that the community college, offers ESL classes for people who want to learn the language. So when the pandemic hits, they went to virtual. So they lost a lot of students on the ESL classes because a lot of people doesn't have the technology, doesn't know how to use the technology. They don't know how to communicate, they don't know how to access it. So this is where the need for affordable and maybe even teaching people how to use the system so they can continue. So I'm very aware that the ESL classes, a lot of people drop. They did not keep the numbers because of the lack of how do you use internet? How, can I afford it, or how do I do it? So there's got to be a solution to that. And that's what I wanted to express regarding rural community college. And, they need to be, have affordable internet for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Well, I think we had a little extra time, so I wanted to use that time to kind of test out what you've heard. And thanks a lot for contributing. And we're going to have a lot more conversations like this going forward. So, but now what we want to do is set you up for the next conversation, actually a discussion about the vision statement. And so I'm going to give you just kind of a quick overview and kind of set up that conversation. And as the chair said, we'll take a break after that, and then we'll come back and people will get to arm wrestle. So, and I've always found that the shorter the statement, the harder it is to be able to get to an agreement. So, but I know you folks are going to be different. All right. So with that, I am going to hopefully here share screen, and let's. Right, and just testing my technical skills here. There we go. And good. All right. So this is just setting you up for the vision statement development process. And what I'd like to do at this point is, sorry, I have two, I apologize. I'm going like this because I've got two different screens going, and I'm trying to keep all the faces on the screen in one scenario, and then the other on the other, but I wasn't successful. Anyway, doesn't matter. So let's go back here. Oops, which way am I going? Here we go. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to recap. If you were in the orientation sessions, recap what we talked about at the beginning in terms of the structure of your vision and action plan. And the structure is built on a pyramid scheme. No, oh, that was wrong. Never mind. That's
And we are at the top of this Ponzi scheme, and it's
yeah, right. So the way it's set up is we're going big picture to more detailed picture, and you start off with the core vision statement, and that is your overarching statement of what do you want Medford to be like by the year 2040. It's broad brush, it's not super specific, but it does carry characters in it that you know this is Medford that you're talking about. As part of your vision statement, you also have your focus area statements. And we talked about the 5 different focus areas that we'll delve into a little bit more. And you develop focus area statements for the 5 different focus areas, and that gives you a little more of a broad brush, a little more detail, but we're still not at the level where we're talking about how are we going to get there. We're just still talking about what it is we want to accomplish. So the first 2 pieces of this pyramid are related to what's the outcome that you're looking for in a broad brush spectrum. The bottom 2 have to do with the action plan. And that's that second phase that I was talking about. And then, so there are the strategies. The strategies are, what is it that you need to do to start moving in the direction that you want to go in order to get to that focus, that vision statement. And then under that, the actions. These are the projects, the programs, and the activities that you carry out that are on the ground, that are very tangible, that bring it to life. Now, theoretically, and it should be true all the way through, you should be able to take an action, trace it back to a strategy it responds to, take it back to a focus area statement, and or the core vision statement. So this is another way of looking at the same thing. So the first 2 bars at the top have to do with the vision statement. So you have your core vision statement, that overarching statement, and then you have, and we've already filled in the focus areas that you folks came up with last time: fostering economic growth and resiliency, enhancing hometown, connecting community, fostering safety and wellness, and promoting recreation opportunity. And you can see that you've got that linear connection that goes all the way down to the action line. So as you begin this conversation today, as I mentioned at the very beginning, you have a lot of information to help inform your deliberations. You've got the community satisfaction study, the community vision input survey, community leader interviews, the community profile, speakers bureau, all gave you pieces of information that will help to inform a vision that is responsive to the community, that is tailored toward Medford and what Medford is. Now, I want to just pause for half a second and address something that I believe it is Bill or Al brought up, and that is, or maybe both, there were missing elements that you were thinking weren't brought up from the community. What I'm going to tell you is, as you enter into this conversation, the idea that you want to have is that you are inclusive of what the community is sharing, but it's not exclusive in terms of you have the ability to put in your expertise, you have the ability to put in pieces that you think are missing in the equation. So this is not so tightly wound as to say you can only work with the community input. It's just saying the hope is that you will be responsive to what the community is telling you and inclusive. The benefit of doing that is that in the end, as the community sees that you have listened to them and you have incorporated things that they have said and that they want, that they gain ownership in this vision. So when it's actually launched and it starts to happen, the community is going to understand that they had a hand in this and that they own it. And that's really important to its success. And we had this happen in Hillsborough, where once we started implementing things and community members saw that things were happening that were responsive, it helped to gain traction for that vision moving forward in other elements. So, so what is the vision statement? Again, we talked about the core vision statement and the focus area statements. We write it in present tense. So it starts off in the year 2040, Medford is ... Broad brush descriptions that describe an outcome. So we're not looking for something that is a way to get there. We're looking for where is it you want to be. It should be tangible enough, though, to help derive an action plan from it, that you can look at that and say, okay, now let's think about the direction we need to go in order to get there. And it needs to be able to hold up for the duration of the planning period. As we talked about during the orientation sessions, the vision and action plan is intended to be a living document. Because anytime you create a long-term document like this, it becomes date stamped. The idea here, though, is that the vision statement portion of the vision and action plan is the one consistent that goes through the 20-year period. You don't change that unless you go back and you update you update the vision as a whole. But the pieces that you update are in the action plan, because as times change, you need to be able to adjust how you're moving forward to get to that vision. Technology changes, regulations change. There are many things that happen. Organizations go bust. And so you need to be able to keep the action plan flexible, but the vision statement itself should be the holy grail, if you will. All right, so what we did is we crafted a vision statement for you. And it's not because we wanted to recommend this to you. It's because we wanted to kick this conversation off in a way that you could use this as a jumping point. And you can look at what we wrote and say, you folks are all wet, you didn't get it, we got to start all over again. Or you can say, oh, you know, this is almost right, but I want to tweak this, that, and the other thing. Okay. Or you can surprise the heck out of me and say, boy, we love that and we just want to keep it. And at that point, I'm just going to retire. This is the vision statement, though, that we drafted, and I want to point some things out. So this is what we call the core vision statement. Medford, a hometown for all. In the year 2040, Medford is a welcoming, vibrant, attractive, and inclusive urban community that embraces the attributes of its beautiful surrounding geography. It's a regional economic hub. Medford maintains a small town, family-friendly character with a thriving and engaged community. Multiple generations, cultures, and interests work together to enjoy a supportive, healthy, and accessible quality of life. How did we get to this statement? Well, we pulled from the community input that we received. And so you will see a lot of the wording in here translates to the themes that Seth was pointing out. So in this first line, welcoming, vibrant, attractive, inclusive, were all words that were used repeatedly in describing what people wanted. Beautiful surrounding geography. That was a consistent with the community input that we received. People want to embrace the geography around Medford. It's a beautiful area, and they want to embrace the area, both in terms of how the city grows, but also in terms of being able to utilize it. Regional economic hub. A lot of discussion we had around the economic activity that goes beyond Medford, that it is a regional hub, and that they want to see Medford become a regional hub. Small town, family friendly. Small town, I think, was maybe the word that I counted the most times when I was reading through the responses. Family friendly. People talk consistently about being family friendly. Thriving, engaged community. People talked about wanting to be engaged in their community, and they talked about the character of the community, that folks have this great sense of community in Medford, and they don't want to lose that. Multiple generations, cultures, interests. A lot of discussion about being inclusive of all populations in Medford and around Medford. And for it to be a multi-generational community, and with embracing the multiple cultures that are in Medford and the different interests that are there. And then finally, supportive, healthy, and accessible. Again, words we pulled out, and I was about to say, after I first read the results, that access was probably the biggest theme, access for everybody. So anyway, that is how this, whoops, let me go back. That's how this was derived. Now, again, you can change it, you can wipe the slate clean, but that was our rationale. And then we drafted, and I'm not going to read these because I think everybody's had a chance to read it in advance, and if not, you can on the break. But we came up with the statements for each of the focus areas that you identified last time. And you'll see that a lot of the ideas and the themes in here should parallel with what came out of the community input. So with fostering economic growth and resiliency, I'll point out just a couple of things in here. A lot of talk about professional training opportunities and having a workforce that's prepared to meet the economic needs of the employers. There was a lot of emphasis on specific industries: healthcare, wine, recreation, agriculture were brought up frequently. So we threw those in there. Downtown Medford, big piece of the community input. People want to see Medford thriving and being a vibrant and welcoming downtown. Why is this? Sorry. There we go. Enhancing hometown. Again, we pulled from that, but talking about the things that makes Medford a place that is appealing for people to call it a hometown. Everything from education to job opportunities and culture and amenities. And there was a lot of discussion about safety. So that's attractiveness and safety, and that was captured in the bottom part there in the last paragraph. Gathering places such as parks. Parks, we had a call out because people in Medford really embrace parks. It's almost like they had an amazing parks director in their past. So that's where that came from. Again, connecting community here we talked about connections, both physical and social. And so the second paragraph there talks more about the social connections that people were looking for, and the sense of community and the things that bring people together as groups, the third places. And then the last paragraph has to do with the physical connections of being able to get from point A to point B physically, and for all populations to get from point A to point B. Fostering safety and wellness. A lot of discussion that we saw had to do with the mobility of people and to get around. So people with physical disabilities being able to be mobile. And then also in terms of having the resources for the vulnerable populations. Now, I want to just take a side note here. There was a lot of discussion, not surprisingly, and if you read any of the feedback, people talked about homeless a lot, not surprisingly, from a variety of standpoints, and that you need to clean up and figure out a way to move the homeless on, or to give them the services so that they can move on. And so a lot of it, a lot of people didn't tie homelessness strictly with a housing issue. They tied it to other things, not surprisingly, addiction, mental health, so forth. So this statement about community resources, public, private, and nonprofit, helping vulnerable populations, came from that. That's what's the undercurrent of that statement. Proactive measures for emergency planning. So we put in about that, but we also, in general, but we also called out the forest management in the region because there was a lot of discussion about air quality. And community members having access to affordable health care and prevention service education, regional hub for high quality healthcare. Healthcare was obviously a big topic, both in terms of it being a great resource within Medford and also in terms of a need. All right, lastly, promoting recreation opportunity. With this, we talked about it in a couple of different ways. People definitely wanted to see recreational spaces, green spaces, places to go hike, parks to play in inside the city. But they also wanted to see the environmental stewardship go along with that. To embrace the outdoor sports theme in Medford, that Medford has that strength, as all of you have talked about, and talking about how do you maximize the outdoor sports aspect of Medford. And that's everything from the facilities to just the family-oriented outdoor activities to make sure that it remains a hometown. And then the open spaces within it and around the city that provide that opportunity for people to be healthy, to get outdoors. And then the last line there has to do with the fact that people were saying, don't turn your back on the beautiful environment that you have around you in Medford. Make sure that as you develop Medford, that it embraces what's around you. So those are the statements. Now, we will grapple with those. We're going to grapple the first one in the next session. And then all of you are going to grapple with the other 5 in work groups, and we'll talk more about that later. But before I turn it back to the chair, any questions about what I just presented? Let's see, I can't get everybody up on the, try and see if I've got hands up, so help me if.
I don't see any hands up, Eric.
All right.
I don't see any actual hands up either, so.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Check for both.
All right, well then, in that case, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, I am excited to declare a break. 10 minutes, which always is a little bit longer. So let's be back here at 3:30 sharp, and we will start with giving Eric our positive comments, and then we'll slide into the constructive criticism. So back in a few minutes.
Thanks.
All right, Eric, are you excited?
I'm ready.
Your butterflies in your stomach? We've all had 15 minutes to think about it and be like, how did this guy get this contract?
Yeah. What was this guy thinking?
What was he thinking? I'm going to call Hillsborough and see if they've ever heard of him.
Check his credentials.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, got a few people popping back in.
Okay, everybody, now for the main event. See if we can encourage more people to get their cameras back on.
Yeah, well, it is in the ground rules to turn your camera on.
Yes, that's true. Nothing like a little public shaming to encourage participation.
One of the things that I found because of our scrunched internet bandwidth up here, if I leave the video on, you guys start freezing up sometimes. So if I turn my video off, it's not because I'm disappearing or don't want to participate. It's just I froze you all up.
I thought you didn't want to look at me, so I appreciate you saying it. Okay, that's almost everybody, Eric. So this is a lot to go through. So I think let's go ahead and get started. If you want to take it away, however you're going to step through this.
All right, we will take it away. All right, so and again, just to reiterate, I, as a facilitator, I do appreciate people turning on their cameras because then I can sort of see how folks are reacting, which I can do when we're doing this in person, I can do easily, but a lot harder to do it virtually. So, all right, what we're going to do now is we're going to grapple with only the overarching statement or the core vision statement. And we're going to start with the draft that we put together. And I'm going to ask first a couple of questions before we start tweaking words. And what I want to ask you is there anything missing conceptually in that statement that you think needs to be in it? And second, statement that you think shouldn't be there. Once we get through that exercise, then we're going to start messing around with words. And if you say the whole thing is wrong, then we'll get a blank slate out and we'll work with that. So, okay. So, and Sandy's going to be helping me out with this. She is going to be doing the virtual flip chart. So I think that's going to pop up. It did pop up. Okay, great. So this is what we sent out to you, and I don't know if you can read that. It's kind of small on the screen. Sandy, I don't know if we can make that a little bit bigger.
Yeah, let me try.
So while Sandy's doing that, and let's just do the virtual raise of hands if you know how to do that. Otherwise, just raise your hand and I'll try and catch that. And tell me, what do you think is missing? First, is there anything missing from the statement? Danny?
Actually, I don't know if it's missing or it should be there or not, but I'm confused by the statement accessible quality of life.
That is understandable. That is probably not phrased the best way. The intent was to show that residents and people working or visiting Hillsborough are able to access all the different qualities of life that are there. So there may be a better way, and probably is a better way to say that.
By the way, we don't really care about Hillsborough so much. I think you just said Hillsborough instead of Medford.
Did I really? Oh, wow. Okay. And you know, that was over 10 years ago. So yeah. That's
not that we don't care about Hillsborough, but not for today.
Hey,
you just don't care that much. So
there you go. There you go.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for the correction. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Kathy. Oh, sorry.
You know, I was struggling with that same piece and thinking that something more along the lines of we're a place where the necessities of life are affordable and accessible to all.
Okay, so we're going to start a list at the bottom. We're going to come back to the actual wording. And so necessities of quality of life, would that be a fair addition there, Kathy? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
affordable and accessible to all.
Okay. Other concepts that are missing from that paragraph, and we'll scoot back up there in half a second here.
Eric, for me, I think, you know, business, to Bill's point earlier, I think business and industry is missing. I think we could do a better job encapsulating that. I jotted some down earlier in my mind, and I think I like the regional economic hub is in there, but I also added Medford is diverse in outdoor activities and maintains innovative industries. And is a financially thriving community that celebrates businesses, families. And for me, that word, I know we're not wordsmithing, but it's unmatched is the word I like. Unmatched quality of life.
So we're gonna tabulate that here at the bottom so that we'll be able to access that wording when we get to that point. Okay, great. All right. Yeah, Jerry. Oh, and I see Mike and I see Marta. Yeah.
Thank you, Eli. I was going to bring up business too, so that's fantastic. The one thing I would point out though with business, it's always exciting to attract new businesses to the area, but I think one important element that we always miss is business retention as well. So somehow if we can put in that business line attracting and retaining businesses, because that's almost the harder part is retaining.
Okay, so we'll capture that. All right, Marta.
Ditto to Jerry and Eli. When we get to wordsmithing, I may have more feedback on the actual business and economic pieces. However, progress is missing. I'm glad Eli touched on innovation, but overall, City of Medford can be a leader an innovative one, the one that, you know, embraces progress, not verbatim. We can wordsmith later. That's missing to me right now. Right now, it sounds like it's doing well, but it's settled. But it's a great statement. Everything else, and usually that doesn't happen, I like about this. Thank you.
Okay, great. Mike.
Yeah, just on the business side, I enjoyed both Jerry and Eli's comments. I would just add the adjective, a vibrant regional economic hub.
Yeah, what I had in my notes was the word, I know we're not wordsmithing now, but is flourishing, a flourishing regional economic hub.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Mike, I agree completely with you. I was actually thinking that exact word when I was sitting here looking at the paragraph, vibrant.
All right, we captured that. Any other concepts? Let's see here. Oh, Tom. Oh.
I going along with these business comments, I don't know if it's too limiting or too focused, but one of the things that I think is a reason that we have the quality of life that we have, and that you can cross town in a easy amount of time, is that we have basically here mid-sized and smaller companies. And I would like to put that in there as something that keeps us from thinking we need to have big companies here. Nothing wrong with big companies, but it'll help keep our quality of life sustained.
Yeah, big companies that are anchors. Okay. Brian, I think you were next.
I like this says regional economic hub, but we have a great local school district and both community college and four-year education. Should we think about something that is a regional economic and education hub? Something that reflects the fact that you can be here and go through a great public school system and then go to RCC and then to SLU and stay local and get your degrees.
I second that. I was thinking the same thing, Brian. Right on.
Me too.
All right. Coming from the education person himself. All right. And I believe the next person was Bill.
Yeah, I guess, you know, the one thing that I would want to make sure we add is that we have financial institutions that are based here, the Road Credit, People's Bank, and I think, again, it's an attribute that's really part of the vision, is that we have a strong local financial industry in place, which I think, again, if we didn't have it, we'd want it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so financial industry presence, yeah. Okay.
Based here.
I'm sorry?
Strong local financial institutions that are in presence, that are headquartered here.
Okay.
But to stress that we don't want to be subject to outside. we want choices of being able to work with our own financial institutions rather than having to rely on the bigger ones.
All right. Denny and then Lilia.
There's not a comment about growth. I wonder if there should be, that I saw. Should it be measured growth? Should it be unfettered growth? Should it be focused growth? I don't know what the right answer to that is, but when I think about 2040, and do I think of Medford being the same size that it is today, just different? Or should it be bigger? And if it's bigger, should it be bigger in how, in what ways, and by what amount? Because with growth comes benefit and also challenges.
Okay. And Lilia?
Yeah, if you go up, can you show me the, okay. Somewhere in there, we're missing the word diversity or diverse. I'm thinking somewhere where it says multiple generations and diverse cultures. There's no diversity in your statement at all.
Okay.
And so somewhere in there has to be added, my recommendation. And if you go to the top of the, see where it says Medford is, Oh, okay, Medford. Before you even showed this one earlier, I only wrote 3 words: vibrant, diverse, and welcoming.
Okay, and we're going to get to the actual word changes here in a minute. We're just getting the concepts down, so then we'll talk about it. Okay, great. Carol?
Yeah, I would agree with the comment about focused growth. I've actually read through all the comments, and there were multiple comments about the types of businesses here, the overrun of the hemp and the vape and the marijuana shops and that kind of thing. So in the future, to bring in a different variety of businesses would be fantastic.
Okay, so another one on the focus growth. Great. Mike?
Yeah, just to add to Denny's comment, I would just say planned. Use the term planned. So that's not just planning to make it bigger. That means planning to achieve some of these other goals that are mentioned.
Okay, so that was under the growth piece?
Yes.
Okay, so planned growth, Sandy, the beginning of that. Okay, that works. All right, Christina.
I'm thinking I'd really like to see some language around resiliency and safety. Outside looking in, thinking about fires and other things. I think when people are looking at places to move their families or whether or not they want to stay here, they want clean air, clean water. And we've certainly experienced some environmental impacts. So how can we up our game on our commitment here?
Okay, great. Carol, you still had your hand up. Is that from before? Okay. And anybody else am I missing? Oh, Christina, your hand's still up? No. Just up there for, just up there to
The stretching.
Oh, okay, there you go. I love it. All right, Eli.
Maybe expounding a little bit further on this idea of headquarters or center or the hub. I don't know if it's appropriate, but you know, the city and the Chamber and Travel Medford spent a lot of energy and time focusing on our tagline of Medford being the heart of the Rogue Valley. I would love to see that in there. You know, I put on my notes, Medford is the heart of the Rogue Valley, the flourishing regional economic hub.
Okay. Great. And Christina, you're still stretching. Okay. And then Bill?
Yeah, Eric, I guess, you know, I would go back when I think of the impact that both Asante and Providence have here of, you know, probably between the two of them, between 5,000 and 6,000 employees in the Valley. That's big to me, but because we have that large enough of a medical industrial complex, basically we know that we can treat just about everything here, and that we have the capacity of being able to have the ability to manage, you know, in a epic world, all of that data and everything. And so I think we need to make sure that's in the vision, that we have the capacity here and capabilities to meet the needs of our community. And I'm sure that Denny or Chris could speak to this, that we're very fortunate to have that now, and I hope we will have it in 30 or 40 years. Also the ability to treat whatever, I mean, we're looking at what, a brand new $55 million cancer center that's going to be opening soon. So again, I think we want to include in that vision that we have the ability to provide not only, you know, the medical industry, but also education, you know, whether it's Rogue Community College or Southern Oregon University, the potential of doctorates being delivered at SOU or undergraduate degrees from RCC. I think, again, that vibrancy should be in that vision.
Okay, great. Danny?
Yeah, I was struck by Eli's comments about heart of the Rogue Valley, and not having actually been here all that long, I kind of see Medford as the heart of Southern Oregon. Maybe that's too grandiose, but you know, this is the place that it's happening for Southern Oregon. It's the place it's happening. It's way broader than the Rogue Valley, although I can understand the reasoning behind that.
Okay, great. And Christina, are you still stretching? Oh, okay, there you go. Just double checking. All right, any other comments? I want to switch gears for a moment before we go in and start trying to wordsmith and ask if, Sandy, you can scroll back up to the statement. Is there anything in there that you would, at the moment, disagree with it being part of that statement in concept? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Just double checking. I wanted to flip the coin. All right. So with that, Sandy, can we get both the statement and that list on together in a readable
font?
Yeah. We don't need the header at the top if you want to get rid of that. Like to be able to look at the statement and all the points together. So hang tight, she's fixing it. Okay, so I'm definitely, while we're getting ready for that, I'm definitely seeing some themes that we can lump together. And the one that I would like to try and grapple with first is going to be the business theme, because you had a number of points related to business. And let's see if maybe we can wrestle that down a little bit and get it into some words that we can add that get to your points. So great. Thank you, Sandy. That's good. Can everybody read that?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So as we look at this and we look at business and industry, and so one of there were some themes here. So one was addressing large industries that act as anchors economically for the city. Another had to do with retention of business and attracting. And then there was the issue of the regional hub, and I'd like to do that as a separate piece because I think Eli came up with an interesting point that might be worth discussing on its own. And then we also have financial institutions is another one that Bill brought up, and the I don't know that growth, I think growth is more in terms of general growth as opposed to economic growth, correct? Okay. All right. So with that, would anybody like to take an attempt at trying to address those three issues, the large industries, retention, attraction, and the financial industry?
Is the notion being business friendly?
Business friendly?
I don't know if that's what we're getting at, but there's an idea.
I think there's something to be said around what we're really looking for is a diversity of industry. We don't want to have just one type of industry or one size. We want to have a healthy ecosystem of businesses. That's what traces through eventually to help address the other problems that we're looking at.
Right. Now, one of the things we want to try and do here is not have this thing grow into a 3-paragraph statement. We're going to try and keep it down to a paragraph here. So when you look at the statement of a regional economic hub, heart or whatever you want to call it, we'll come back to that. is there a way to kind of capture those comments along with that? Because
So
when
maybe a growing and diverse regional economic hub. This is trying to plug words into for me at this point.
That's fine. This is all just a discussion at this point. So a growing and regional economic hub.
For me, I think I mentioned flourishing regional economic hub. And then in my notes, I put Medford maintains the innovative industries and is financially, or take that out, thriving community that celebrates business community in an unmatched quality of life.
Okay. So I'm going to offer up to you a suggestion here. As we start stretching this out, it starts becoming more predominant in the whole statement. And you will have an opportunity in the economic focus area to be able to address some of these as well. What you want to make sure is that what's in here doesn't preclude you from doing that. So, but so what I would offer up to you is that we hold off on that for a second, but that be something that the economic group might want to try and grapple with. Carol, you have been very patient.
That's okay. I was just going to ask if you can enlarge that again. I want to try to copy paste it onto my computer so I can actually read it. Thank you.
Yeah. It should also be in your materials as well.
I just haven't looked. I'm looking for the other. Looking for the ideas in red.
Oh, I see. Okay.
If you haven't looked at Marta's wordsmithing, I think that gets pretty close.
Okay. So what Marta's is which piece here?
My last comment in chat. Medford is a flourishing regional hub whose diverse economic base provides unmatched business, education, and employment opportunities. I really like that several of us talked about education, and that touches on families and whatnot. And also unmatched, something Eli said earlier. If we want to be unique, unmatched is a good term I'm going to steal from Eli.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Bill. I mean, of course, the other one we did talk about, the elephant on the table, was that, you know, we're the home to the second largest Fortune 500 company based in Oregon, Lithium Motors. I mean, would you have guessed that 20 years ago? Would you have bet $1 that you're going to have, you know, the second largest publicly held company in Oregon based in Medford, Oregon? Or would you have headquartered now at Harry and David, the leading gourmet food delivery service in the country, you know, headquartered here, you know, under Steve Lightman. So, and somehow we need to, I think, and I think Marta gets pretty close to there, but we really want to say anything is possible here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not a backwaters.
Okay, so Sandy, one thing that might be helpful now we've blown this up is, can you put bullet points so that we can kind of see the concepts more readily? You could just highlight it all and just say bullet points. Okay.
Well, they don't all start on the same.
Oh, they don't start in the same paragraph. Okay. All right. So Marta's statement about flourishing regional hub whose diverse economic base provides unmatched business, education, and employment opportunities. I'm getting the sense that did get a lot of traction. Bill's point notwithstanding. Are you comfortable if we lift that statement and put it in there? For now, for discussion? Okay, I got some head nods. All right, so while we're doing that, Al, did you have something you want to add here?
Following up a little bit on what Bill was talking about when he was listing, could you have imagined that lithium motors would emerge? One of the things that has happened here is the emergence of PRS as an outgrowth of the manor. And when you think about the importance, and Sally and I see it every day, in terms of the stream of people interrupted by the pandemic for a time, the stream of people who want to come to live here, who have assets, means, and talent, and calling that out in some way, Medford is somehow built upon that. The fact that the manor was built in 1960, and the vision that those folks have has meant a tremendous positive impact to this community. Somehow that's missing in the vision statement in a way that would allow us to build on that in our strategy.
Is there anything in that vision statement, Al, that you think would preclude that?
No, it's just not emphasized.
Right. But it potentially could be in an economic vision statement.
Well, I would argue, yes, you could answer that question both ways.
Okay.
But what I would argue is that one of the things that has held constant and steady for that 60-year period of time is the fact that this community has become very attractive, not only to people who want to come here and live from out of the area, but people who from the region. I mean,
oh, you just froze up, Al. Okay, let's come, Al. We're going to come back to you in a minute when you come back. Tom.
Yeah, taking Marta's statement, maybe we could combine that so that it can perhaps mean more with what some others were talking about with K through 12 education and RCC and SOU, and show a pathway from a quality of life education through 4-year college and these businesses that people can stay here. Marta wrote it kind of in the reverse, but showing that there is an entire lifespan that someone can spend here with a quality of life.
Yeah. Okay. So Sandy, we can't see the other statement. I know this is challenging, but there we go. If we can get Marta's statement in there, if you can put that in as the second sentence. Is that, yeah. And this will give us something that we can work with here, because I think we've got enough people that have some traction with this, just in different variations. All right, so okay, there we go. All right, so I want to go back to your statement and what you were saying and apply this, Tom. And do you have thoughts of ways that you would rephrase that to put you on the spot?
Sorry, with my technology here, I don't, maybe I can go to chat to see Marta's statement.
Oh, okay. All right, so why don't you take a look at that? Because we've got some people who've been waiting. Mike, you've been very patient. Mike, you've been very patient.
Yeah, I think the points that Tom's making, Al's making, Bill certainly, really is going to be fleshed out in kind of the subcategory of economics. That's the place where we can really dive into it. I think that, you know, the broad brushed approach that Marta has there really is inclusive for a whole array of these subgroups. So when they get into the education piece, there's a way to cross-pollinate between business and education. That's where we can really get more down into the weeds.
Okay, well said. Okay, Tom, do you want us to come back to you, or are you done?
No, Mike made a good comment. I think that may be trying to do too much, and to do that in the separate categories.
Okay. I think that's a great way to handle this. And again, we're trying to keep this succinct, but what we want to make sure is that we don't exclude anything that you want to put in in the next statement. So, all right. So let's, if it's from a business standpoint, I want to close that out, and then I want to kind of come back to a couple other points that were brought up. From a business standpoint, does this statement work for you, recognizing that there will be an economic vision statement? And the sentence would begin, a flourishing regional hub. Get a chance to digest this.
Lilia has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, I was I was reading it.
Yeah, you were digesting it yourself.
Yeah,
I was thinking on the, you know, I said this at the beginning, but if we start over here in the year 2040, Medford is a vibrant, diverse, and welcoming. I don't know. Welcoming. I don't know. It's
okay, Sandy, let's insert those words for now. I want to close out the business piece.
But I would like the first word to be vibrant. That's my suggestion. Diverse and welcoming.
Okay, so while Sandy's fixing that, I think we have a little bit of chatter in the background there.
Oh, it's me. I'm sorry. I'm gonna mute.
Okay. Are the business folks, those that brought up the business concepts, comfortable with this as it is and on the business side of things? I got a thumbs up from Mike. I think from Eli, your arm's off the screen, but.
Eric.
Yes.
So when you're asking comfort level, are we only referring to the new language in red?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Because then the preceding sentences becomes almost redundant.
Yeah, we may have to clean that up a little bit, but
thanks.
I just wanted to make sure that with the business concerns that were raised, that there's nothing in this statement that would preclude you from adding on the other things that don't get into this statement. Okay. All right. So we're gonna move on, and I'll go back to what Lilia was saying here. And so we have Medford is a vibrant, diverse, and welcoming. We'll strike the other welcoming, and the other vibrant. Welcoming, attractive, and inclusive urban community that embraces the attributes of its beautiful surrounding geography. Let's start with that sentence. Does that work?
I think it's too many adjectives for an opening sentence.
All right. What would be your suggestion, Mr. Chair?
Oh, I like how Lily has it: vibrant, diverse, and welcoming. I think we can hit attractive later on when we talk about natural beauty, and inclusive under the small town and or lifestyle piece.
Okay. So Lilia, your intent was to stop where in the sentence? Where is Lilia? You're muted.
I am muted. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yes.
After welcoming, period.
Medford is, okay, so that we would take out in order to make that work. So
It will
Medford
be yes, vibrant, diverse, and welcoming.
period.
Yeah.
All right. So that gets at your point. All right. So then we get to and inclusive urban community embraces attributes of its beautiful geography. All right.
Eric, this is Bill. I guess what goes through my mind, I can understand, is the word representative better than inclusive?
Is the word, I'm sorry, a little background.
I'm trying to figure out if I was looking at this, and would I want to make sure that I or my group or my type of people could be represented in the urban community, or is it enough just to say inclusive of the community? Because I ask myself, you know, when I look at Medford and I look at, you know, the different types of people that run for city council or on different committees and stuff, to me, there's a little more, I guess I prefer a little more emphasis on the fact that Medford wants to make sure that you could be represented in our community, rather than just saying, well, we have this group in our community, we're inclusive, aren't we? But I just don't know if inclusive is a strong enough word, or if we want to use something like represented as just for a concept for talking.
About something like fostering an atmosphere. Fostering.
Okay. Fostering an atmosphere. Okay, Marta, you had a point you were going to make.
Yeah, so on this one, I think the activity that was brought out under the 3 activities for one of the 5 groups work was to have, you know, more folks involved in the city and running for office. And I'm going to switch my hat, and Lilia Caballero knows this hat, and so does Mr. Shoshian. I am the chair of the City of Medford's Commission on Access, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Representation kind of follows once you create an inclusive environment. Like you can say, you know, one precedes the other, but so far, the term of art in the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion has been inclusion so that everybody could be represented. It sounds like a chicken and an egg, but that's just my take wearing that volunteer hat.
And yeah, I want to drill down on this for a minute with you and Bill. And so Bill, your point was, if I heard it correctly, not to take the word inclusive out.
Somehow emphasize that inclusivity includes representation.
We want to say that where everybody has a voice, because we already say that people are welcome. If you're welcome in the community and you have a voice, I think that Venn diagram would also cover being included, but it attacks, or it gets to what Bill's speaking to.
All right, so I want to go back to Marta for a second here. Marta, given those points, what is your thought about the language that would that would work. That
Medford is inclusive. See the sentence about thriving and engaged community? It's in the engaged community, I feel like the representation and people having a voice could go. But I'm not married to this concept. It all totally makes sense.
So having representative in there is not an issue as long as inclusive is there. That be correct?
Yes. So Eric, we hear a lot about the fact, particularly with disenfranchised groups, particularly students and stuff, if they don't see somebody, if they don't see a teacher who is like them, if they don't see, a principal or a vice principal that are like them, it's easy for them to shove off. If they look at the board of the school and they don't see people like them, how do we engage in this that, we see success as being you seeing yourself in that role? City councilor, mayor, city administrator, school teachers, administrators, etc. How do we build that into our vision that we see potential for everyone to be successful in our community?
Okay, I'd like to go back to Lilia and or Marta and ask you about that, because I think the two of you probably have an idea of how that is best said.
I think, I do agree with Dale. Everything that studies have shown is that the student will have better success when they see someone that looks like them. I mean, it's a given. It's not a question. It's actually a given. I'm not sure how to put it in there because, as you probably know, and Brett is not here. I don't see him on the screen. He's probably doing his job. At the school level, trying to recruit bilingual or bicultural or other races teachers is very difficult, but it needs to be done. It can be done. It's work that we have. We still have ways to go, but the necessity is there. Okay. In order to, we need to represent the community we serve.
Okay, so I think there's agreement here across the board in terms of what we're trying to say. The question is how to best say it, not to pick on anybody, but Christina, do you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I keep thinking we're neglecting the fact that we have the word diverse there, and that as we move forward and raise our level of engagement and awareness around what inclusivity truly means, I think not being too specific is actually a benefit, and using the safe words that have been identified, such as diverse and inclusive, they mean a whole lot more than maybe we might have thought they meant in the past. It's language that is used to help people know that we are aware and that we are working to make it safe and that all are welcome. So I wouldn't undervalue those statements there.
Okay, and what you just said, Christina, is there's a lot that falls under that umbrella, right?
There is,
and that's the same issue that we ran in with the business concepts that were brought up. There's a lot that falls under the business umbrella, and we can't put it all in there, but we want to make sure that it's meaning the right thing and that it's creating the opportunity further down the line in vision to be able to build that out further.
Yeah, and I don't want to negate the fact that, if we have a vision statement that start off so boldly to say that we see ourselves as diverse, vibrant, and welcoming, and an inclusive urban community, that is a bold statement. I think it's something that we all can be proud of. I think it's relevant, and I think it absolutely depicts what we want to convey here, at least around the inclusivity discussion.
Yeah.
So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. That was great. So let me just offer something up, and then you guys can shoot it down. But What if we were to say, take the word and start a new sentence with an inclusive urban community that embraces the attributes of its beautiful surrounding geography, period. Leave inclusive as it is, because that will get eventually to Bill's point and to Marta's and Lilia's. All right, let's try that for the moment. We can always come back and change it. Okay. All right, Bill, you've got your hand up still. Is that from before? Okay. All right. So now going back, let's go back to that list. Let's tackle the necessities of life are affordable and accessible to all. Now, if we can get back up there, yeah. I would offer up to you that the last sentence has the biggest opportunity for any kind of modification that might get those concepts in there, if you feel that they need to be there. Any thoughts? I'm trying to remember who offered that one up. No? All right, we're going to move on if we don't have any takers. Okay, we can come back to that. The concept of progress, is that something that you want in that first statement? We've worn you out already. Okay, I'm going to move on. We're not going to dilly-dally. Okay, so I want to go back to the regional economic hub. Now, did we end up taking that out? No, it's still there.
But we switched it around so that it's a regional hub for economics, education, and business, which I like, actually, that we're a hub for more things than just business.
All right, so let's first deal with the duplication here. And so you've got a growing, flourishing, and diverse regional hub for Sandy, I think what we're going to be doing is using Marta's sentence as the base for this, as opposed to editing the sentence below, which we'll work on taking the duplication out. So if you could add that into the Marta statement, henceforth known as the Marta statement.
Sorry, how where exactly?
Flourishing regional and I think you started to say educational hub, right?
No, we already said it. The Marta statement was correct.
Oh,
and
okay.
then go ahead and delete everything from where you have a-regional all the way through to the comma, but after hub.
Okay.
So we roll from the Marta statement into Medford maintains a small town, family-friendly character, which, as someone pointed out in the comments, we have to square with being an urban community.
Perfect. Excellent. Now we know why you're chair. All right, so we've cleaned that up now, but I want to go back to Eli's comment because that seemed to have some traction at the time it was said about the heart of the Rogue Valley. Anybody want to make a case for trying to incorporate that somehow, or do we leave this as is? Eli, are you?
I think it could possibly work right before Marta's statement. Medford is the heart of the Rogue Valley, a flourishing regional economic base.
Or even at the end of the previous one, after we talk about geography. I mean, because we talk about we're in a beautiful area and we're the center of the region, right?
Right. So an inclusive urban community that embraces the attributes of its beautiful surrounding geography and serves as the heart of the Rogue Valley.
I don't like that.
Okay.
At the
I feel
heart.
like that's not inclusive at all.
I like
think we,
I like the idea of moving it to after her statement. Put as the heart of the Rogue Valley, Medford maintains a small town community character, friendly character.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a little traction on that. I'm watching hands go up, so I want to respect those that have put hands up. Marta, did you?
Ditto to Kara, as the heart of the Rogue Valley, Medford maintains. I really like that. On the natural part, though, I've got to say it, embraces the attributes of its beautiful surrounding geography. Like, that sounds really selective and cherry picky. I wish we could just say embraces its stunning environment or something like that. But attributes of beautiful surrounding geography is just not working for me. But ditto to what Kara said.
All right, let's clean this up and I'll come back to that. All right, so a flourishing regional hub whose diverse economic base provides unmatched business, education, and employment opportunities. And then as the heart of the Rogue Valley, Medford maintains a small town, yada, yada, yada. I got a head nod. Carol, you've been waiting. Do you have something related to this?
I'm just going to say, I think you're yada, yada, yada. It's potentially, we're going to get this too long and then it's going to lose people in the middle of it. I think that rather than being self-promoting, we can prove it by our statements and our action plans that we are the heart of the Rogue Valley without having to say it. I think we're saying a lot more valuable and important things in that statement. And perhaps the heart of the Rogue Valley could come in one of the other categories as we break it down. That's my idea.
Okay, how do others feel about that? Thumbs up from Kathy. Thumbs up from Christina. Thumbs up from Jerry and Alan and some stone faces. So, all right. Okay, well, we're going to go with that. We'll take that out as the heart of the Rogue Valley. Eli, sorry. And I want to go back to the point that was brought up about the beautiful surrounding geography. And so what was your recommendation on that?
Either scrap attributes of its, like you either embrace it or you don't. You don't cherry pick which stunning geography you're going to embrace, or its beautiful environment. But I think is an inclusive community that embraces its stunning environment could get the point across.
Yeah, point well taken. Yeah, you don't. You're not
I like simplifying it because it's not really just the surrounding environment. We have lots of beautiful nature within the city limits. I mean, we have a fantastic park system. We have Bear Creek running through the middle of town. It's not just the surrounding environment. We embrace nature, and it's an asset.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I wonder, instead of embrace, I wonder if a better word is celebrate. And then maybe instead of embrace, but celebrate outdoor.
That celebrates the beautiful surrounding geography. And
so Kathy put a note in there, and I think it's relevant.
Oh, sorry, I haven't kept up with the chat.
It's okay.
Okay, an inclusive urban community, it embraces the stunning beauty of its environment. Any thoughts about that? Got some head nods. Anybody want to say that doesn't meet their criteria? All right.
This is Tom.
Yeah. Oh, Tom, where are you? There you are. Okay.
Kind of like Chris said, I don't think we're urban.
Okay.
I like the idea of just taking that word out.
All right. I will tell you my thinking behind it, and then we can take it out. But my thinking was, as Seth had pointed out during his presentation, there were a lot of folks that said they wanted to have the amenities of they wanted to feel like a small town, but have the amenities of a big city. And so that's where that came from. But this is your vision. So, I
think you got to take one of them out. You either got to take out urban or small town. I don't know that we can play both sides of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And we've got small town later. All right. So take out urban. Tommy, are you stretching your hand? Okay.
I would
All
do
right.
just the opposite.
All right. And so we've got an inclusive community that celebrates. We get rid of embraces.
Folks in the chat prefer embraces.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Sandy. All right.
Hey, Eric, just real quick on the urban versus small town, did somebody jump up and disagree with that? That might be worth exploring. Did somebody say just the
urban small town contradiction?
Yeah.
Who had that? Marta?
Dr. Kemper-Pell. That was Dr. Kemper-Pell.
Oh,
because to play the other side, I don't have a preference one way or the other. We just need to pick. But 20 years from now, we will be bigger. I mean, we don't have a lot of control over that. That's the way it's going. We've been through an extensive public process to expand the city over the last decade. And maybe we say, maybe it's worth discussing that in 20 years, we are an urban community and we're not a small town. That might be our reality. So that might be worth. Just curious if anybody feels strongly on that.
All right.
Yeah, this is Bill. I guess I think we need to drop small town. I mean, we have 1,000 kids in our mid high schools. We have 1,000 kids in our high school. I mean, we're not a small town. I guess but I know it came up oftentimes in the surveys, but I just don't think it works.
All right, others? This was probably one of the strongest things that came out of the survey. Seth, maybe he's taking a break.
I like family friendly.
What's that?
I like family friendly.
Family friendly. Okay. Well, again, this is your vision. So if you folks want to take small town out and leave urban in, or take them both out, that's fine.
Well, and we haven't taken any steps to be a small town. We're not going to take any steps to be a small town in the next decade. There are towns in Jackson County who have done that by saying, like Ashland and Jacksonville, we're not going to expand our urban growth boundary. But okay, then that's the size you are. We're doing just the opposite. And we can argue if that's good or bad or the right or the wrong thing to do, but that's the direction we're going.
Eric, I'm here. I'm sorry. Did you have a question for me?
The conversation just came up about small town, whether that really belonged there. So I was just circling back with you with regard to your perceptions from the survey.
Well, I think what people are saying is they know that Medford is not small, but they like that it feels small. So I think that's what they're getting at, just the feeling of a small town and the feeling of small community and intimate community. Okay,
great, thanks. Christina, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to acknowledge that I think this is critically important for us when we're talking about visioning, to Daniel's point, that we consider the fact that this is a 2040 plan, and we want to identify ourselves as the heart of the Rogue Valley, and we want to be a hub So all those characteristics really do kind of support the concept of us being an urban center, which is actually pretty freaking exciting. And if we do a really good job at planning, it will continue to just organically feel like a small town because everyone's coming up together in the process. So,
Okay.
thanks.
Good point. Thanks, Christina. Al?
I would just reinforce Daniel's point by saying that on any given day, as Corey Crubbin says, we are a community, we are a city of over 100,000 people. And if you look at the trajectory of where we will go over the next 20 years, I think it's a matter of adaptation in a way that preserves our sense of community that we have to work on.
Okay, so this is all headed in the same direction. Carol?
Without being too wordy, I don't know if there's a way to state that we're an urban community with a small town feel. Just real basic.
And I saw that in the chat too. An urban community with a small town feel. Okay, so first of all, I think we've got agreement that urban is something that you want to keep in there. The only question is whether or not you want to say a small town feel. Is there any traction for that?
Can we address the things that we like about small town without saying small town? We like a close, we like a community where you feel like you know people, or you feel like you have access to government. Seth, what were the things when people said they liked a small town? Did they identify characteristics or attributes of that we could tag onto?
Yeah, some of the things you said, definitely being able to know people and feel like you are known. And so I think having spaces where you feel like you can come together and have community. There was also the other side of not wanting the drawbacks of larger urban environments, which maybe we're not describing here, but they talked about how it's really easy to get around the community. But otherwise, I think most of it is just knowing people.
So I think maybe we tackle that in one of the sub-statements. I think there's some of those things that a small town feel brings, we can flesh out in the sub areas, Eric. Does that make sense?
That does, and the hometown one really seems to call out, at least to me. So the hometown group might want to think about that. Okay, so let's move on from small town because I don't see the traction coming in from that. And so Medford maintains a family-friendly character with a thriving and engaged community. Are we okay with that? Okay, I'm going to hold on to that for the moment. Take success where we can. Okay, so can you scroll down? Thank you. Just want to make sure that we hit the other points that were brought up. I believe we have touched on all of these in some form or fashion. Is there anything that we've missed that people have brought up? Then we'll go back and we'll look at the last part of the statement. Okay, Christina. Oh,
Stop it.
Correction again. Okay.
I'm literally thinking.
You need a thinking icon. Eli.
Perhaps it's just me, but I'm having some trouble with the word geography. I just don't think people think or speak about surrounding geography. I know for us, for Travel Medford, we talk a lot about our beautiful natural assets or outdoor assets. So I don't know if that could substitute there, a community that embraces or the beautiful surrounding natural assets or outdoor assets.
Someone earlier used the word environment, surrounding environment.
It's better than geography.
Okay. Marta?
Dr. Kathy Kemper-Pell wrote in chat, stunning beauty of its environment, and that got a lot of nods.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's better.
And I like that we strike surrounding. doesn't really add much.
Okay. All right. So we're going to change that wording. The beautiful.
The stunning beauty.
Oh, okay. So strike beautiful, and then we're going to type in the stunning beauty. Keep going.
Of its environment.
Of its environment. Okay. Excellent. I see that. I see this solidifying. Okay. So I'm going to go down toward the end, if that's all right with folks. Actually, we got a couple hands up. Christina, are you stretching still? Thinking? That's a thinking hand? Okay. All right. Fool me every time. So we've got Medford maintains a family-friendly character with a thriving and engaged community. Multiple generations, cultures, and interests work together to enjoy a supportive, healthy, and accessible quality of life. The accessible quality of life was brought up as being really kind of awkward, and I agree. Perhaps I'm just going to suggest that we get rid of accessible and say supportive and healthy quality of life. I'm just throwing that out there, and shoot at it if you like. Okay.
Is there anything about saying fulfilled or dignified to tweak it a little bit? The one thing from the list of things that we brought up that we thought might come in here is, if you scoot back, something about how everyone can make their own way or find success here. Necessities of life are affordable and accessible to all. That really needs to wrap into that sentence if we like that concept. Is there a way to we want to have a town where everybody can make it. How do we, I think that everything that we've talked about so far kind of touches on that a little bit. And so it'd be a great way to wrap it up. But I don't know, that's as far as my thinking about it.
Okay, well, maybe some folks have some ideas for wording to kind of support that.
Citizens can thrive. I like the word thrive.
Citizens can thrive. Okay, so multiple generations, cultures, and interests work together. So citizens can thrive. Is that what you were saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Where is this is Lolia. Where's the phrase that necessities, where is it? No, can you go forward? Necessities of life are affordable and accessible to all. That is I agree with, where are you? With the chairperson, Daniel. I think I love that to be at the end, and maybe if we go back, where it says multiple generations, culture, and cultures, that right after that, we can add that phrase that where it says all necessities for life and affordable, accessible to all. After that phrase where it says culture and necessities.
Yeah. Okay.
After yeah.
Okay, and necessities.
Yeah, the whole phrase that it's over there in the red. I like that. Yeah.
Necessities of life are affordable. And I missed the.
I don't know what else is after affordable.
Sandy's got it.
Oh, okay.
Just made the generations and cultures affordable, which
generations,
I'm
cultures.
looking to buy into another generation. But.
Okay, yeah, now it gets a little awkward here.
Yeah.
Multiple generations.
I think what we're trying to do is change the second part of the sentence. We all work together so that, and right now it says we have a good quality of life, but we want to tweak it to be, we all work together so that necessities are available to all, or that everyone can find success. A good, well-rounded success. It's the predicate of that sentence.
Or that everyone can be part of the community.
Or everyone can find success in our community.
Okay, so we got multiple generations, cultures. Are we going to put back interests, or you want to leave that out? Otherwise, it's multiple generations and cultures work together.
I think interest is too clinical.
Okay.
So I would probably strike it.
Okay.
I think less is more.
Okay, multiple generations and cultures work together. So, all right, and then after cultures work together.
To create a thriving and successful community?
Say it again, please.
To create a thriving and healthy community or successful community? I think the affordability piece can be in one of the categories again.
Okay, so work together to create, say it one more time.
A thriving and healthy community or a thriving and successful community?
A thriving and successful community. I think that gets to Daniel's point.
It does. It does. We've said community in a lot of our sentences, so it might get a little redundant. Can we work together to ensure that, you know, everyone finds success, to tack it that way a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe generalize it. You know, Medford fosters a atmosphere or an environment wherein our citizens can thrive.
I want to make it a little more personal to the citizens, not just the community. We want to say people who are here can be successful and thrive. That's the whole point, right?
Right. Exactly. So multiple generations.
We're all working together to make sure that everybody here can find success.
So to create and foster, right? That's yeah. And foster a thriving and successful community. And then
where all citizens can something.
We're all citizens.
For all. Just leave it
for all. Just
for all.
For all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after successful community for all.
For all.
For all, yeah.
For all.
Sorry, my keyboard needs new batteries.
For all. I mean, we keep guessing. Okay. All right. So since we delete that bottom part there, yep.
Can you turn your track changes off so we can see the clean version?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and.
You can just accept all.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right.
So just to read it, in the year 2040, Medford is a vibrant, diverse, and welcoming, and inclusive urban community that embraces and celebrates the stunning beauty of its environment, a flourishing regional hub whose diverse economic base provides unmatched business, education, and employment opportunities, period. Medford maintains a family-friendly character with a thriving, we've got thriving twice, a thriving and engaged community. Multiple generations and cultures work together to create and foster a thriving and successful community for all. So we've got a double thriving going on.
So Eric, up top between the first and second sentences, I think that needs to be a semicolon, because that second sentence doesn't really stand on its own. An inclusive urban community.
Okay.
Yeah.
That celebrates, it just cut.
So it's a semicolon after welcoming, and then and inclusive is not capitalized.
Oh my gosh.
You're doing a great job, Sandy.
I'm trying.
All right. So, all right. So there's that change. Before we deal with thriving, I think you will want to do that. Any other observations from the statement?
I think the second thriving probably needs to go. Did we get rid of the first one?
No, we haven't.
Because to me, thriving and successful are very synonymous.
Yeah.
But I think there's another word that we could use there.
Prosperous or healthy?
Entrepreneurial.
Entrepreneurial.
Prosperous might be a little more, at least in my mind, inclusive than.
I like prosperous because we had a lot of discussion about business, and this is another tie back into that. And don't we want everybody to prosper?
So you'd want to take out successful then, because that's the same word.
Yeah, to foster a prosperous community for all. I think we're running on the long side, so shortening it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Okay, how does that work for folks? Okay, Marta.
Sounds great so far. I would get rid of to create. By 2040, we better have it created, and we kind of already do. And also, rather than multiple generations, I understand multiple generations. I think Danielle said really well, like interests sounded clinical. Multiple generations kind of sounds clinical as well. I would want to see what the group thinks about residents across all generations and cultures, or all generations and cultures.
Can you just say generations and cultures? Or, no, you're right. All generations and cultures.
All generations. That would be less. That would add less words than the other. So
all generations and culture work together. And you and Marta, did you say you wanted to strike to create?
Yeah.
And make it present.
Yeah, some of us
a little more direct. Work together and foster a prosperous community for all.
Work
together.
To foster, whichever.
To foster. Work. Al, you've got your hand up. I want to recognize that.
Thank you. As I look at the whole statement, one of the things I go back to is my original comments by Bill Gates and his book. I look at the focus of where we are in terms of the world and where we are in terms of the safety of our community. My beloved Bear Creek Greenway has had 2 homicides in the last week. We're still dealing with the pandemic. We're still dealing with so much division in our country that we can't follow simple health mandates. And it has a little too much of a Pollyanna flavor to it for me, and not enough emphasis on health and safety. That's my 2 cents.
To your point, Al, safety came up, and the word safe came up a lot in the feedback that we received. So, does anybody think that's a piece that's missing that we ought to try and address here? Daniel?
I mean, you could put it in the end and say a safe and prosperous community. I think the real meat of it's going to come when we get into the substatements and the actions. I think Al's right. That's a huge part of what we have to roadmap out for the next 20 years. I think putting it in the vision statements is really just the messaging piece of it. I have no doubt that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about strategies to address that. I don't know. Anybody else in the group have thoughts on that?
It's an actual
Christina?
hand raise.
Oh, it's a real
actual hand raise?
This is what it looks like.
Not the stretch, not the thinking hand. Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot about the word prosperous. I'm thinking about the word safe, and I keep thinking safe and vibrant community. I think prosperous maybe lends a little bit too much to the economic lens. And when I think about health and safety and all of those things that are all encompassing, I think about the vibrancy and the well-being of people in our community, which kind of wraps around all of those concepts in my mind.
Mhm.
I'd be with you on vibrant, but we already used it up top.
Did we?
It's in the
Damn
first
it.
line. That's like the first thing we say. Medford is vibrant.
Yeah, you're right.
So a nice synonym for that would be dynamic.
Or abundant.
Abundant?
Abundant or abundance.
Abundance,
Yep.
nice.
Can we have an abundant community? Like we have so much community that it's overflowing. I mean, I'm all for community. Don't get me wrong.
Robust.
It's safe and
let me just throw that out there because in my tallies here on the responses, safe and clean came up a lot. What about attractive? Instead of clean, attractive. Safe, attractive, and prosperous.
No.
I'd rather make people rich.
All right, I can't strike bat 100 all the time. Okay, so what we've got then is
Is everybody okay including
Yeah,
safe?
okay.
Just is there any objection to that? I threw that out there, but okay.
Can we include resilient too?
And Lily has got her hand up also, Eric.
Oh, thank you. Lily.
Yeah, so I, of course, I am aware of Al's comments about so many people dying on the Greenway. But right after, so I agree with him about using the word safe and healthy somewhere in there. So right on, and Medford maintains a safe and healthy. I mean, I don't know if we can add healthy, but we can strive for healthy, safe, family-friendly character without thriving, safe, healthy.
A safe, healthy, and family-friendly character.
Yeah, I think
I like things in threes. It sounds good. It's Holy Week. I'm thinking about the Trinity, is what it is.
Okay, so to play devil's advocate with you folks for a moment, and I know we're getting close to time, and we are getting close to time. Geez. Okay. Safe and healthy as a character. Does that work to describe them as a character?
Well, I think character's modifying family friendly, so I think it depends on where you put the comma.
Mm-hmm.
But if we don't want people to have to think that much about the vision statement, then maybe we need to rewrite it.
Friendly. How about atmosphere? Or instead of character, friendly
atmosphere. Yeah,
atmosphere right here instead of character.
Yeah, I didn't like the word character personally. I was thinking atmosphere as well.
Okay.
Or focus, safe, healthy, and family-friendly focus. But yeah, character, safety, it's either there or it's not. It's not a safe character sort of thing. I agree.
Okay, so we've got atmosphere. I think atmosphere kind of captures what you're trying to say because it's more of an environment. The focus is you're trying to achieve that. So I'm going to respectfully recommend that you keep atmosphere. So let's see if we can land this plane here. So you have now in the year 2040, Medford is a vibrant, diverse, and welcoming. Medford is a diverse and welcoming and inclusive urban community. That's an awkward transition. Okay, that embraces and celebrates the stunning beauty of its environment. Flourishing regional hub whose diverse economic base provides unmatched business, education, and employment opportunities. Medford maintains a safe, healthy, and family-friendly atmosphere with a thriving and engaged community. All generations and cultures work together to foster a safe and abundant, robust, resilient, prosperous community for all. Okay.
I think you got to delete safe, abundant, robust. We moved that thought up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, safe is
so strike that. And then do we want to keep robust and resilient, those thoughts, or is that getting to be too much?
Are people
shaking
weighted
her head, but I'm not sure what she's shaking it against. Keeping it or making it go?
Who was that?
Linda.
Linda, you're on mute. You wanted to go.
Yeah, I thought it should go, and I was thinking of the word verdant in there to tie in our greenway.
Verdant?
Together to foster a verdant and prosperous community for all.
Looking around, Al's shaking his head. No. No, Jerry's shaking his head. Kathy.
No, if a word's, if Al's shaking his head, you know that's gonna, most people are gonna go for it.
All right, I don't think we're getting traction on that, Linda.
All right.
But how about foster a robust and resilient, prosperous community for all? Does that work?
No.
That's
No.
a
We have
lot.
way too many adjectives going here.
All right.
I would just take it back to, where's everybody at on prosperous? I like economics, but not everybody does. So like, who's okay with prosperous?
I like just prosperous.
Me too. Prosperous.
Prosperous. We're getting
Prosperous
lots of
community for all.
handots on just prosperous.
Okay.
Prosperous
for prosperity.
And prosperous can be more than economic.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Prosperous
Yeah,
means
you're right.
things to different people.
Okay.
I'm emotionally prosperous. So get to know me. I will share my prosperity with you emotionally.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. So, all right. We've pretty much got it here. I think the first sentence is a little awkward still, but we're running out of time.
You can tell me my semicolon sucks. That's fine. I'm a big guy. I have a big emotional prosperity.
All I'm saying is it's awkward. So this is what I'm going to recommend because we're out of time. Let's freeze this for the moment. We can come back to tweaking it just a little bit more. But I think we are 95 to 99% there, judging from everybody's comments. I will check in very briefly with Kara because we haven't heard much from you, and I just wanted to see if you are in agreement with everyone on this.
Well, you know, being new, I'm a little overwhelmed at the moment, just trying to take it all in. But yeah, I mean, I think we made some good progress. Looks better than it did when we started today.
Okay, Alan? We need your mute button.
Sorry. I like it. I think I think it needs to be pared down. It says a lot. And I think it's repeating a little bit, but I like the direction it's going.
Great. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna freeze that as is, and we'll bring it back at the next meeting, and we can do any fine tuning. Okay. Somebody is objecting. Okay. All right. Mr. Chair, I know we're out of time, but if we could just talk about the work groups for a moment, if that's all right.
You've got 4 minutes of overtime that you stored from the last meeting.
4 minutes of overtime. All right, we're gonna talk really, really fast here. So I do have here a list. The list changed since I sent it out. Some people did approach me about some changes they'd like to see, and we were able to move some things around. And I just trying to share this real quick. Share screen. All right. So this is how the groups are now configured. We'll send this list out to you just so you have it as the final list. There are leads in each of the working groups. So this is your assignment. With the draft statements that we had for each of those focus areas, for your focus area, take a look at that and do exactly what we did today. And look at, does that work? And if not, change it and come back with a recommended statement that we can present to the entire task force. So if you feel like, well, geez, I really wanted to be on this other group, Don't worry, you're going to have a shot at it when they bring it back. Or these are also public meetings. So you will have the opportunity to attend other meetings if you'd like to, but we would like you to at least be with your base group. There is a doodle poll that is being sent out right now by Rachel to help you schedule, and the city will host these because they're public meetings. The city will host these and Rachel will put them all together. The task that you have is to get this all done by April 5th. So no worries there, but that's why we tried to give you a heads up on this early on. In terms of the leads, you'll see the leads. The leads are the conveners of the group and are also intended to be the point people with the city and us, and also intended to be the spokesperson when you bring it back to the group, unless you guys decide you want somebody else. All right. So with that, there's your work groups. I'm going to step aside and turn it back to the chair and see if I can shut this off. Maybe.
I was filling out my doodle poll. I'm the first one to respond.
Oh, okay. You've already got it.
I'm doing what I can, Eric. That's it. Thank you, everybody, for staying late. I think it's going to be great for us to break out in these groups and then come back and discuss it. Not a lot of stress being the lead, so don't worry about it. We won't make you get up and sing a song about what you worked on, but it's going to be a great way to get some really good discussion and move us forward. So please fill out the doodle poll ASAP, and we will see some of you in our groups in the next few days and the rest of you at our next meeting. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks.